Good evening. It is May 11th. This is a pre recorded show, special urban facts and dedication to the Lambert family. Um, Real quick, on June 11th, Mr. James Lambert, this gentleman right here, pretty sure y'all remember that iconic photo, was helping some children. Well, inquiring about their whereabouts. These children were out pretty late. I think it was probably about 1:45. And as any concerned citizen, hey, you guys, what you guys doing out here? Um, Opposed to them being grateful to Mr. Lambert's gesture of concern, things went awry, and two of the individuals killed Mr. Lambert. I'm sorry to say. Um, it's shocking that there's two individuals that we're referring to are teenagers. One is, I believe, 14, and another one is 15. The family can give you more details, but we shouldn't be in a society where a average person, an everyday person, is concerned for somebody else's children's well-being and then viciously attacked. Um, since the attacks of Mr. Lambert, his family has been diligently protesting the streets. That's how I actually met them. They was protesting, and just to get justice, for their loved one. And I would do the same thing, and I'm pretty sure you would do the same thing too if a situation like that had arisen to you. um we're gonna keep talking about James Lambert, whatever opportunity I have, because we don't want this to be, he's not, not Emmett Till, you know what I mean? Not to say that he has to be. He's not Dr. Martin Luther King, and not to say that he has to be, but he's James Lambert. And it doesn't matter if he's not Emmett Till, it doesn't matter if he's not Dr. King, but it does matter that he is James Lambert. And um his name matters. His family matters. The consequences that these children will face is going to matter. And, we here at the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, we do pray that, the consequences that's laid upon these children will have them to, be more, how should I say, respectful or mindful in regards to, when you dealing with someone's life. Mr. Lambert didn't have to inquire about those children at all. And the situation could have been reversed. He could have walked away, went home, and somebody could have came out and attacked them. But that wasn't the case. So, two of the children that attacked Mr. Lambert were released. We're going to give a brief photo. So this is one of them here, Ms. Mosley. She was released on bail by a nonprofit organization called Movement Alliance. And this is the young man that was released. Let me pull this up here. All right. Mr. Richard Jones, I believe his name is, also released by Movement Alliance. They put a blog up on their website in regards to why they felt convicted to release these two individuals. Our organization is for youth, empowering them culturally and academically so they can have hope to see the opportunities that's, in front of them, so they can have a better future, a more successful future. I don't think that, now this is my opinion, what this organization did is teaching these children consequences. It's teaching them that, hey, whenever I get in trouble, some Superman is going to come in and swoop by and save me, and then everything's going to be all right. Now, if they wanted to use funds in regards to their case, then, that could have went to another situation. But you don't really know how somebody feels about these two youth that were released in regards to Mr. Lambert's death. Now, we live in a time where anybody's getting killed. So is a risk to their lives, and then it's a risk even to the Lambert family, because we don't really even know what kind of situations could arise from that, just from their release. You know what I mean? People may feel that, they were locked up unjustly, or, like I said, it's crazy times. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't locked up unjustly, because they were justified. Their arrests were justified. You can't just kill somebody and you get away with it scot-free. So we're going to bring on these two individuals here. Let me show you what we got going on here. So we got the Lambert family. I've interviewed Miss Stevens before. Very wonderful young lady. And her niece, her niece, Erica. So without further ado, I'm going to get out you guys' way, and we're going to bring on the Lambert family. All right, so here's Miss Tania Stevens and her niece, Erica. How you guys doing?
Hello.
All right. So, we don't have any questions for you guys. We just want an update in regards to, what's been going on, since the case has been ongoing.
Awesome. Well, as I said, thank you for having us again. This is my second time being interviewed by the foundation. And we went to court. The two teenagers that actually physically hit him and caused my uncle's death, they were both 14 when they were arrested. The young man, Richard Jones, turned 14 while in custody. My mother was explaining to us that she was my mother, my niece's
grandmother.
She's your grandmother. She was saying that there's somebody keep hitting her door. Someone was hitting her door, and she thought somebody was throwing something at her door. This was around November of 22, and so I brushed it off. I didn't think anything of it because, as far as we were concerned, the kids were in jail. We didn't have anything to worry about. The police had the DA's office had issued a protection order because the kids, and we had evidence of them, were on my mother's block, literally harassing her. And they put a protection order in place. And come to find out that the young man in October, this organization, the Movement Alliance, they paid the 10% of his bail, which was the bail was $750,000. So they paid 10% of that. And the city has this cash bail system. If you're guilty or not guilty, they don't care. You have the money, you can get out of jail. So this organization, Movement Alliance, paid his bail and paid the young lady's bail, Jeremiah Mosley, in March of 23. I'm sorry.
He was released in January.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, niece. She was released in January. He paid her.
The children that you guys seen at the door,
Yes.
These were just random children then.
No, they were family members of Jemiah Mosley.
Yes.
They
Oh,
were
okay.
an actual family. That's what we found out. Police and the district attorney's office.
Children.
I'm sorry.
I was telling the man that the mother has at least 8 to 10 children. They were her siblings.
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Yes. So the DA's office put the protection order in, and we were told that for every time the police they did the roll call, that my mother's address would be on what they called a hot sheet. That they would say you have to go past this house to do a drive-by to make sure nothing was happening. Um, okay, it all seemed like it was good. We went to court again. Uh, they're released. They're released now. So we went to court shortly thereafter. The ADA assigned to the case, Cindy Pope, told us, she said, I'm going to go for $1 million bail on both of them. They issued an $850,000 bail for the young lady, who I believe that she was sincerely sorry for what she did, but
Yeah.
sorry to bring our family member back. I explained that. I asked them to please step away from me because they were animate at the courthouse before court had started, that they wanted to talk and say the mother and the young, they wanted to say they were sorry.
Right.
I didn't want to hear it. And I was glad that they were talking before my nieces got off the elevator, because they were not going to listen at any words. They just don't. I was just grateful. Nonetheless, the judge ordered $850,000 for the Jemiah Mosley and $1 million bail for Richard Jones. At that time, the same organization, the Movement Alliance, paid their bail to get them out again. So now we have all these incidents that are taking place. My mother has been on that block for 20 years, 25
Over 20. Elsie is
years.
33 years old.
Right. And there has been no incidents. No one. My mother is almost 90 years old, who constantly throws things at a old lady's door and deliberately just, we live in strange times. Yes, I understand. Philadelphia is almost like the murder capital of the world right now. One of the city's highest crime rates right now, but it never happened. And so we just thought it was just a little crazy that all of a sudden you have people standing out there with guns and refusing to leave and sitting on her steps. And we called the police. And the next day I was at the police station, the police district, 17th and Montgomery. And I wanted the name of the community relations and I wanted everyone's names, and I have because it's becoming too much of a burden on our family to try to keep our mother safe, our grandmother safe, and we're all licensed to carry, and it's just I'm trying to avoid any conflict.
Right.
Artists, but sometimes it's really difficult. I can't be everywhere all the time, but now this latest incident, and I called the ADA. I didn't get a response, and I thought that was odd because she normally calls me back. I went, as I said, to the police station. I got everyone's name. I went to a community meeting last night. I spoke on behalf of my uncle. And what are you doing? They need to hold the parents accountable. And just to correct you, Mr. Parker, it wasn't 1:45. It was 3:15 in the morning when these from the ages of 10 to 14 were out roaming the streets like a pack of wolves, looking for a victim of any crime. My uncle's crime was only to say, why are you children out here so late? What any caring adult would say to children on a school night, nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead, niece. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. Yes, it definitely is obscene, and for the young man lawyer to even try to justify like it was okay that the children were out at a playground, playgrounds closed in any city I have ever been in. at a reasonable time. She made it seem like it was appropriate for them to be outside, being so that they were at a park, and she tried to justify. It was all of the gestures, all of the undermine, and all of the insulting that we had to go through when we seen the actual physical video and nothing was blurred out
Oh my,
of beloved's uncle, James Lambert, how he was murdered by these young children. And
entire courtroom gasped. Oh, everyone.
it was a very
Prosecution and the defendant side, everyone gasped. It
yeah,
was it was
very horrific video, and to continue to watch that over and over and over, to replay, to pause, replay, to pause, replay, to pause. I just felt like we were just reliving it all over again, and I just feel as though since all of this situation has occurred, we don't even have no real time to even grieve. Like my aunt Tania just spoke on and said, like, we don't have no time to grieve. We're all busy working. We're parents, we're wives, we're mothers, and the fact that we have to constantly leave work, or either when we get off of work after working 12 or 16-hour shifts, every last one of my family members, we're all in the medical field. So after working long shifts like that, with dealing with patients all day long, just to run past my 90 or almost my 90-year-old grandmother's home or whatever, to make sure she's safe, to make sure all her doors is locked up. We're getting extra cameras. Everybody is taking turns downloading the apps. It's my grandmother, like my auntie, my grandmother was living on that block since I was 2 years old, and nobody has even like pissed on my grandmother's sidewalk or spit on her pavement, because
right.
they always knew, like, everybody in my neighborhood has always respected my grandmother. Like, she's very well known in that community as well as on that block. So to know that those things were happening, it was very obscene to us. Like, we were tired. We were getting off of work, sitting out there for 4 or 5 hours, making sure she's okay, then still having to go home and conduct our normal busy lives or whatever.
Day to day.
And what neighborhood is what's that neighborhood that your grandmother lives on?
Strawberry
She
Man. She's in the
three mansions.
yes, and she lives in the 1700 block of 26th Street.
Yes,
And
Mm-hmm.
he's
the Muslim community, because my uncle was Muslim. He was First Resurrection Muslim. I'm a Christian, but I know what First Resurrection. They were the ones, like, if this generation now would watch Malcolm X, that's what my uncle came from, that type
the
of Islam.
Oh, the Nation of Islam.
yes
Okay.
in the nation.
FOI.
Very, very well known by the
X, he was known in the community. He fed people, he clothed people. My mother, his sister, he respected my mother so much. She raised him and her other siblings
mother
when
page. He was very
their father died tragically young. And my mother had to drop out of school, raise her siblings and her husband and her children. My uncle was always like a father to me. Like, when he was a teenager, he could, I come from that generation where dinosaurs roamed the earth. We were told kids are to be seen and not heard. Not that I believe in that now, because I believe the children really have something to say and we need to listen to them.
That's
But I came from that generation, so I respect that generation. And my uncle was like my father, because our father, my seven siblings all together, six and myself make seven. Our father stepped off on us when I was like 12 or 13 years old. So my mom had to go to work, something that she never had to do. So she had to go to work. And I became like I was the big sister. And I stepped in, and where I fell short, my uncle and my aunts, they were our extended family. That was our village, you
yes,
know. And my niece can attest to her aunt, Jackie, my mother's youngest sister. They would like always go, and she would make them something to eat. And it wasn't enough, but she would always make these little saucers of food for them. So my family is a close knit family.
yes.
Those kids that day in June took my uncle. That was one of the worst things, because me and my uncle was close. We were very close. Matter of fact, he lived here in my house with me at one point. Um, it was before my daughter was born. I never forget, my daughter wasn't born yet, and I believe I was pregnant when he was here.
He
And
lived afterwards.
yeah, and he was the only one, besides for the younger generation that if they ever needed, I would let them stay with my
Mm.
house. My niece that's here this evening, she lived with me for a minute,
Mhm.
and we had good times in my house. She could never say that there was bad. We ate, we had our smell goods, and we ate, and we were just a close family, and they took that from us. I know that everyone has an appointment. We all live because we're going to stand before the Creator one day.
Right.
We all going to die, but they did not have to push his death along. And when that young man in that courtroom, when the judge, the ADA hadn't even had a chance to say, we want $1 million bail. When she saw how he was gesturing and laughing, how he hit him with the cone and how his head jerked and how he fell, she said, she told his lawyer, she said, all that sounds good. Of all this is that he's doing now, but that's like putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
It's a little too late. And he sat here on video and made fun of that poor man. That is appalling. She said that was just disgusting. She said $1 million. My family, all we because we Christian, I was getting ready to shout up on the witness stand.
Oh no.
So that they million, but in this organization.
And she was actually disgusted for how low the bail originally was. She said,
Yeah.
from watching this is,
Yes.
I'm pretty disgusted by how low the bail
That was
originally
right.
was for these two young people or whatever for taking this man's life. And when we first heard about the situation, when we got the phone call, we were at work or somewhere home in bed sleeping.
Right.
We just thought like a robbery went bad. So me
Right.
as my whatever, I do have a teenage daughter. My daughter is 16, and my daughter's an honor student. I don't have no issues, and my aunt can contest to that. To know that it was children younger than my daughter, and we thinking that it was like adults that was trying to rob him or something to that nature. But when we found that out, it was babies, like grade school children,
Age 10 to 14.
us even more disgusted as a unit to know, like, wow, like he was, like his life was taken by children. And
Yeah.
nurse that that cared for my uncle and did his last care for him while he was still laid up in the hospital before they pronounced my uncle dead.
Right.
She whatever she said, your uncle was healthy as a horse. She said, this man, this is not, I don't want y'all to think that this is from like a fall or something. She said that this is murder. She said, y'all need to call and because this has definitely been ruled out for a homicide.
Man, they ruled it a homicide. They ruled out it being like an accident, like they
He said
actually right.
homicide.
That's when they had to do the coroner had to do an autopsy because
Absolutely.
coroner was involved, the homicide unit, but I feel as though the city of Philadelphia falls short. They do not help the victim. Initially, the beginning,
It's no curfew.
thousands of
Yeah, it's no curfew over the.
condolence, condolence.
Hold on, y'all audio is mixing together.
I'm
Right.
sorry.
That's fine.
I just feel like where's the real consequences? I feel as though if the parents are being held accordingly or whatever, I can guarantee you the crime rate. It's no reason why all these carjacking, all of these murder or whatever. The prisons are packed with children from the ages of 14 all the way to 20 years old, and they have at least 4 and 5 murders under their belt already, and they're not even a quarter of a century yet. So I just feel like if parents are held, especially if a child is under place of residence under your address, these parents need to be held accountable. Some form of adult, whoever you leave your child in their hands or whatever, like some of the parents say, oh, they were not home with them, they were at work, da 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 da. Okay, that all may be fine and dandy. But just like my aunt said or whatever, it needs to be back. It needs to be some form of villages or whatever. It needs to be some form of aunts, older uncles. Somebody needs to be instilling in some form of fair in these. They're fearless. They out here and they're just doing any and everything. Like it is. I've never seen a generation so lost in my entire life, in almost 35 years of my life. Everybody talked about my generation, but I feel like we have boundaries, we have respect or whatever. We seen elders, we knew not to yell, we knew not to curse. If we seen an older person get on the bus, we got up out of our seat to let,
Amen.
because that's how my grandmother raised us. it's no boundaries, it's no regards to this generation. And for this organization to say that they're going to continuously to bail
Move,
these children out,
move.
it says a lot about them as an organization. Because if that's the case, do you know how many people are in the penitentiaries as we speak or whatever that are actually innocent people, but y'all seen on camera that these children brutally murdered a man that could have been their possibility grandfather, and y'all
So
keep.
let me
I
ask y'all a question. Was y'all able to get in contact with the Move Association?
Well, I called the Movement Alliance.
A Movement Alliance, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I called the Movement Alliance. I call them every day. Every day. I leave a voicemail. Some are full of anger and some I'm extremely professional, but they called me back, I think, after 20 voicemails. I blew their voicemail up.
Mhm.
Called back, left a message, giving me the name of the CEO. And since that time, I repeatedly call. I call every day. Some are professional, some are not. Because at this point, you are not displaying any level of professionalism to me by at least having the courtesy to call me back. I said, I want to speak directly with the person. I don't want you to leave a voicemail. I don't want to play this infamous game of phone tag back and forth, back and forth. I want to speak with someone. And I mean, I just want them to tell me why. As my niece stated, we are a country of mass incarceration. I know there are innocent black and brown boys and girls in the prison system that don't deserve to be there for a minor fraction, maybe a pack of weed, I mean, a stick of it, or something that was so trivial. But they sat in that courtroom, and the representative, I know that was him, that sat across from me, and he was writing down just figures, the numbers, the boys, $1 million. That is what I'm saying about the city of Philadelphia falls short. That everyone offered condolences in the beginning when my uncle was initially murdered. It was just millions of calls, tons of calls. But there were only two organizations that still stand with us to this day. And that is Mr. Parker's foundation and another one. That is it. The police, when I went around there, my mother's address was no longer on the roll call list. So they tell me, oh, well, I'm new to this position. I don't want to hear that. That's no type of consolation. If something happens to my mother, they paid out $1 million to Heather and Becky, who complained under the BLM uprising. That is the only reason why they got $1 million, because it was Heather and Becky. But they would have to pay astronomical amounts, because I'm not, if something happens to my mother and I have documentation of names, dates, times, everyone, it's like they dropped the ball. That's what I say. We need new politicians, because the city of Philadelphia truly has fallen short.
So when they release these teens, when you guys, I mean, when they posted the bell, were you guys contacted by them?
We're
No,
not. No,
neither, neither.
my aunt was not made aware. My cousin, which is her daughter, was driving, and she said that she felt like she seen a ghost, and she seen the young man. He was on his way to, I guess, one of his programs, and she stated to her mother that he was out, and that's when her mother reached out, and the ADA said, hold on, I'm not aware of that. And said, yes, they have been released. We were not, and I feel like that was just a smack in the face or whatever. We felt like we was getting some form of a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, we getting somewhere. It's almost been a year. Like June is like right around the corner. So,
Mm.
like literally been a year. So like I said, we still have not had no form of dignity, no form of real grieving. My grandmother is really going through it. Like that was really her best friend, and that was really one of her favorite siblings. Where anything that my grandmother fell short at, whenever the holiday came around or whatever, he always, bought our children stuff, even if it was little corny stuff. It was always the sort that count. With my uncle, he always had like such a good oral, such a good spirit. and he was always mild mannered, like always mild mannered. He was very respectful, very humble, and because of the generation that he came from, and of the religion also, so he just was just like he was just really a cool, outright going person
Yeah.
or whatever. No, you know, um, it's just sayings and stuff that we still make jokes about it and try to laugh from, crying and stuff like that. A lot of the sayings and stuff that my uncle used to say, and it's just so funny. Like, wow, like we're not gonna see him no more. Like it was very difficult this past two important holidays for my family, Thanksgiving and Christmas of the year 2022, and to know that my uncle wasn't coming walking through the door with turkeys and hams and bring me and stuff, and sitting up here waiting for my grandmother and my mother to finish prepping and cooking and making his platters and stuff like that. It was really rough. I'm not even gonna lie. Thanksgiving and stuff did not feel like Thanksgiving because, he was definitely a big part of our family. We knew if we didn't see him all of the months or whatever, we knew for insert he was gonna come in there dressed clean as a boy elf. And he was coming here to bring some goodies for us. So,
Yep.
it's really a sad situation. And I don't feel like we're getting the proper justice. I think that, like my aunt said, I feel like it's just um a tic-tac-toe game, and they're trying to see if we're just going to just let my uncle name die, just like as many as people allow their family members to die or whatever, and it just gets swept under the carpet, and they just put teddy bears and they just put bears, and the families just have to try to keep the names going, and it don't stay in the public eye. And I think that that's the attitude that they want us to have or whatever. Well, he was a 70-something-year-old man. Yeah, he was, whatever. And you know what, I feel as though, God still had more life in him or whatever, because for them doctors and nurses to say that my uncle was, healthy as a ox or whatever, like it meant that this man still was supposed to be here or whatever. And for to know that children took his life, it's, and not saying if anybody, even if it was an adult that took my uncle,
Right.
Right.
But
no
let
fault,
me let me
illness.
ask you this. So you said you guys contacted the district attorney's office, and they said they wasn't aware. Um, when Miss Stevens contacted the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, that's the organization that supports this podcast.
Right.
We sent a letter out to the governor in
Yes, and
regards to you guys'
Johnny,
case.
my aunt definitely spoke nothing but highly of you. I did see the letter, and she's been keeping us updated. She's really like the mediator of the family, whatever. She's all about
Have you guys heard anything back from Governor Shapiro?
Nothing, nothing from the governor's office, the mayor's office, or the police commissioner, because all letters went to all three of them, and there was no response. So I
Have you
just,
guys reached out again since
I,
the harassment started up again?
I have not. I only reached out to the police at the 22nd district because my mother is in the 22nd district. But I also gave them my address because I'm so visual that I'm on every platform of media that you can name. So people stop me in the street and they know me, unfortunately, by the death of my uncle. So I don't want the kids or their family. I live in North Philly. They live in North Philly. I don't want them to put two and two together or follow me unbeknownst to me and find out where I live at. So I had to give them my address and my mother's address to do a constant tour around this area just in case, just in case,
So
you
you've
got,
been on various news stations and interviews, and
yes.
nobody still hasn't. I mean, have you guys mentioned the harassment on any current interviews that you guys
every
been on previous to this one?
kid. My aunt makes it aware. She lets them know exactly what is going on, whether if it's via email, whether if it's via phone call, voicemail. Um,
So
Whenever we report,
yesterday,
post,
KY reached
yes,
out.
I'm
KY,
let
sorry, what you say, Miss Stevens?
KYW reached out to me, and I explained to her what was going on. And she asked me, just a couple of the media reach out still to me via email or text and ask me how is things going. But there was Christian Johansson from KYW. She reached out because there was something about the murders in Philadelphia, and they were touching on my uncles. And I unfortunately I missed that. They had it down at City Hall yesterday at 6:30, and I was at the meeting that started at 6 o'clock yesterday. So that's why I said I can't be in two places at one time. But yes, I'm still reaching out to other media, other organizations, the police, to let everyone know that the harassment is continuous. And I don't know if the kids, if it's their siblings, if it's their relatives. I only know what we have went through. I only,
Mhm.
in the past, they've been on my mother's block. Why? I mean, you got to put two and two together. Now, all of a sudden, someone's throwing things. We have to put 3 cameras, a ring camera, all this on my mother's door. And they had the video. My daughter still has it in her possession of this man harassing my mother. But who is he? Eh, Who
Right.
is he? No. But he was
Well,
this guy.
um, like I told you before, the Ethel Zachary Foundation, we definitely stay in contact with you, and we've also been in contact with the mother of Rachel King, the school teacher that was murdered
Yeah.
at the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot.
Mm,
Like you guys said, it's a time of unrest,
my God.
and like your niece said, that wasn't how we was brought up. She mentioned some differences, and your generations versus hers. Things kind of get a little different. The kids act a little, a little updated or whatever like that as far as the evolution.
Sure.
But when you deal with bad parenting, this is the result.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like I told your aunt when I first met her, I said these kids are a product of bad parenting.
Right.
Now I'm not promoting what they did because that was wrong,
Right.
but as a father of 3, I don't nobody want to see kids locked up. Now
Absolutely.
I would now if we had the money to bail them out, we wouldn't have bailed them out because that's the consequences that you have to deal with consequences in regards to your actions, whether the
Amen.
consequences are bad or whether the consequences are good. You
Amen.
know what I mean? And I don't want you guys to feel like I'm taking sides, but I still want these children to be able to learn how to be model citizens. But
Right.
what's happening now, that's not going to happen
Right.
because, like we just said, this organization, for whatever reasons they had, they freed these 2 individuals, they murdered your uncle, and this is giving them blurry vision in regards to right and wrong, in
That's right.
regards to
And,
consequences.
and it's giving them like, oh, an outlet. You know what? I committed a crime. And especially, I'm gonna just say this whatever because I have a teen daughter or whatever. If you're teaching this young man and this young lady, oh, I can kill somebody and somebody is going to bail me out. When he get older or whatever, he's only going to, especially for the both of them, especially for a young black man or whatever, whether if it's from the hands of what he did or whatever, whether if it's the hands of a knife or a gun, any type of form of blunt force trauma, any type of form or whatever, you're only teaching them or whatever, like, oh, I just got street credit. Like
Okay.
you,
Free cred. Yep.
like, yo, bro, like you don't think like he's having them kind of conversations with people
Right.
age? Yes, that's the kind of ignorant conversations
But
that
you know, I didn't say if they wanted restorative justice of any type. Like I said, 2 organizations reached out. If they wanted to do anything, they didn't even offer us a slice of bread. Like they're not even the decency to call us and say we're releasing these kids back into the community. The DA didn't even know because of the city's cash bail system.
Now,
That-
do you guys still have expenses in regards to the case?
Well, travel, I'm all over everywhere. Gas is not cheap, and I
Mhm.
drive
But as
anywhere.
far as like with the funeral and court
No,
costs,
no, no, no. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay, Mr. Parker. Seriously. The Ethel Lee Foundation, Zachary Foundation gave us they blessed our hands, and my mother was grateful. Like I said, it was only 2 organizations. The other organizations supplied my mom with food. Not that she needed it, but it was just a thought
the thought
right?
that counted. It was the thought, and they supplied food and water and stuff, back in June and July. But we were out, like, we were posted in front of my mom's door. We were out there having cookouts and everything because it was just, we were watching. We had to police those kids ourselves initially because they were not doing it. And now I found out they dropped the ball again. And my mom's address was not on the roll call list. The protection order was not being enforced. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Seriously,
Feel
it,
like,
it's really heartbreaking. It really is that the victims get more. I mean, the criminals get more attention
and
than the
I feel
victims.
so much, they say all the time or whatever, black on black crime, because it is, because, a lot of times people have this narrative that, what, I'm going to go the legal way, I'm going to do this or whatever. And when they feel as though no form of justice is really being served for them or whatever, that's exactly why the crime, that's why we're the capital of murder now. Like, we have beat Compton. Like, how the heck do you beat a place like Compton for murder rates or whatever? Because it's just like, okay, nothing is going to be done. Okay, I tried to do it the correct way. Now I'm just going to take matters into my own hand. Just
And
like
that
my
I know.
whatever. No, I'm
I
not.
don't want my family
Yeah, I'm not. That's something that I'm not going to play with. I'm not going to play about, y'all thought that my uncle was just this, homeless, nobody cared about this man or whatever, but he has a ton load of family or whatever. So with that being said, and I will refuse, like, my grandmother is my best friend. It was my first best friend since a child, all the way into my adult. I can sit and go to my grandmother's house and tell her favorite dishes that I want her to make, and my grandmother will still get up and still go make it in the kitchen for me and stuff like that, make little special treats. If anybody thinks for 2 seconds that they will do something to my grandmother, the city will shut down. I promise to God it will. And that's not even a threat, because it's just like, I'm not even going, like, y'all already killed my uncle and I'm watching my grandmother, go through this or whatever. And we be trying to keep her company, but it's days that she has really bad, mood swings, and she goes in and out, like she's real depressed or whatever, but we know exactly what it is, and we just try to deal with it and just be like, okay, grandma, or whatever. And we just try to pay it off or whatever. No mind, we be taking her out, doing stuff, trying to keep her active, to try to keep her mind off of the situation, so she just don't sit in the house and wilt away or whatever. People die from broken hearts. People die from broken hearts.
Well, I definitely want to thank you guys for coming on the show. Well, Ms. Stevens, for coming on again. Erica, this is your first time.
No problem.
Hopefully, we can have you on again with some better news.
I also.
But like I said, I especially, even if the foundation closed tomorrow, Lord, don't let it close tomorrow.
Don't let it close, Lord.
I'll still, keep your uncle's memory alive.
Thank you so much.
Because, like I said, he's, like you said, it's the inner city itself, and it's not like the fault of some of the people, but it's kind of like, like a intuition, like, well, all right, well, they didn't do anything about so and so, or they didn't do anything about this one or that one, so why should we make a fuss about this? But you guys gotta make a fuss, because if you don't, nobody else will.
That's
and
right.
like Miss Stevens said, when I first met her, she had, quite a few organizations, and that withered down to just 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not, these organizations' jobs to constantly call. I mean, it's just out of courtesy.
Right.
But see, the difference with some of the organizations now, and then back when Miss Stevens was young, you have organizations like RAM, and then you had organizations like SNCC. I teach my kids about these organizations because these organizations are the ones that's really looking out for the community.
Right.
And like I said, we're definitely going to vote on this award being named after your uncle. Did I mention that? Oh, well, yeah. We're going to, we have this person of the year, and we're going to name it after Mr. James Lambert. I just have to present it to my board, and I'm sure it won't be a problem, because I want your uncle's name to live on.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? And
Uh,
not just by your family, but
Right.
by our organization. But I
Thank
want to thank you ladies for coming on. It
Thank
was
you.
definitely a pleasure to see you again, Miss Stevens. And it was
Always.
a pleasure to meet you, Miss Williams.
no
And you
problem.
guys have a wonderful evening.
You do this. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. So that was Miss Tania Stevens and Erica Williams. That was the Lambert family, just giving us an update in regards to what's been going on since their uncle's passing. Up next, we have a moment in Black history. We're going to get this. Let me see here. Here it is right here. A moment in Black history with Miss Ambrielle Parker. Let me see if Miss Parker's ready. Let's see there. Let me pull her up here. Hey, Miss Parker, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I apologize for the background. My house is getting worked on.
Oh no, that's all right. Pull your camera down a little bit.
That better?
Yeah, that's fine. So what are you talking about today for May 11th? What happened today in Black history?
Okay. So today in Black history on May 11th, 2013, the Poor People's Campaign was started by Marian Wright. It was also approved by Martin Luther King Jr. Their plan was to bring thousands of poor people to Washington, D.C. to demand that government officials offer equal opportunities through jobs and a fair minimum wage, and to highlight the struggle for equality among people of all races. After days on road, caravans of people arrived in the nation's capital on May 11th. Sadly, Martin Luther King Jr. got assassinated and was never able to officially participate in this campaign. But his wife, Coretta Scott King, and other civil rights leaders were determined to continue Dr. King's dream.
All right. So what did you learn about this event?
I didn't even know this happened. This was actually something new to me. I didn't know that the Poor People's Campaign was even a thing. I actually think that this was a good thing, and I actually like that it actually was able to actually happen, because I think what their plan was is really amazing. I think more and more people should do that more and more people should do that instead of getting involved with the streets and all that. They should do other things to help out some of the poor people, which are you don't see as many white poor people, no offense, as you do see Black poor people. There are more of us that are poor, and I feel like that this should continue to live on. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Thank you for your lesson today, Ms. Parker. You guys don't forget about the Poor People's Movement. Definitely sponsored by Dr. Martin Luther King. And I just want to thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. That was Ambrielle Parker with a moment in Black history. So, we still have this youth conference coming up. We're I believe we are a month away. We're definitely a month away. There it is right there. So it is the Ethel Lee Zachary's Youth Conference, Never Give Up Hope. And we just want to encourage our youth to continually stay steadfast in regards to hope, not to just so easily give up. Sometimes, when you have situations like the passing of a loved one, or, like Mr. James Lambert or the Poor People's Movement, you living in poverty. Like, hope is something so easily a thing that you can give up on. But us as parents and the community, like Miss Stevens said, it takes a village. It takes a village to keep hope alive. You know what I mean? So we're gonna do our birthday shout out also. So let's see here. Who's there you go. So today's birthday is this young man right here. His name is Legend Parker. He's actually my little cousin, and Legend will be 2 on June 20th. So we here at the Ethel Lee Zachary Foundation, we want to wish you a very wonderful birthday, sir, and we hope you have many, many more. I'm not sure if Legend and his family will be able to, have caught the broadcast, but we definitely sending you a shout out, Mr. Parker, in regards to your birthday. And like I said, I hope you have a wonderful day. I wanted to bring the Lambert family on. I really did. We stay in contact with Miss Stevens, and it's a travesty in regards to what's happening with her family. The harassment at her mother's door, the unfair treatment that's been happening, the lack of contact by city leadership is just sad. You know what I mean? And like she was saying, if there were a white family, that's what she was talking about with the Becky and Heather, that wouldn't happen. But race should not be a matter in regards to doing what's right. You shouldn't have to be white for something to happen, to get justice. You should be able to be black or, whatever color you are, brown, yellow, it doesn't matter. Because we're entitled to justice here in America, according to our founding fathers. We have the right to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if we don't have this foundation set up correctly, then sometimes the pursuit of happiness is a thing that we may not always see, depending on how we were brought up. And like I was telling them, these youth have to face the consequences of what they did to Mr. Lambert. You know what I mean? I do hope one day that, after these consequences have been met and, they've served their actions for their crimes, we can interview them and, they can have a positive story to tell in reflection to how they become, model citizens. I truly hope that that's something that can happen. You know what I mean? Because it's not the person, the personality, it's the behavior. But I don't know these individuals personally, so I couldn't tell you what type of personalities they have. But as the family said, the young lady, Ms. Mosley, she was definitely, remorseful in regards to what happened. So, like I said, this show was dedicated to Mr. James Lambert Jr. He's an icon in my eyes. Like I said, you don't have to be somebody famous or, on somebody's particular watch. But Mr. James Lambert Jr. is an icon in my eyesight. And we'll always pay him that respect as being an icon, because he was trying to do what a lot of these folks out here are not doing, trying to correct youth from possible harm's way. And if being attacked is going to bring on, if you're doing that and that brings on you being attacked, then there's definitely something wrong in society. You shouldn't be able to be attacked because you're trying to cause or create a good deed for somebody else's children. And that's all Mr. Lambert was doing. And like I told his family, we'll always keep his memory alive, because what happened to him was atrocious. And it shouldn't happen to anybody. And like Ms. Williams said, the fact that it was children was even more disgusting. But it's not their behavior is what happened, But the parents are responsible too, because these are how these parents develop their children to be the type of people that they become, as teenagers. So I'm praying for both families, all the families, that justice and correction come swiftly, and that God's merciful hand will be upon both of them. My name is Eamon Hotep Parker. This is Urban Facts, and you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless, and good night.